Will democracy survive in the next couple of years?
And essentially, we are the same.
And there are so many needs that Minnesota has.
What people are saying they need right now.
Access to democracy is made possible by donations from the following organizations. Thomson Reuters, a global company with expertise and insight to unravel complex situations in the areas of law, tax, compliance, government, and media. Their worldwide network of journalists and editors keep customers up to speed on relevant global events. Thomson Reuters, the Answer Company. Crutchfield Dermatology, a full-service treatment center in Medi-Spa in Eagan. Their goal is to help you look good and feel great with beautiful skin. With service built around courtesy, dignity, and respect, Mayo-trained Dr. Charles Crutchfield personally treats each patient and is acknowledged as one of the nation's best physicians. Firefly Credit Union, with locations throughout the Twin Cities, has proudly served Minnesotans since 1925. Firefly guides its members forward by delivering customized financial solutions to improve their lives in all aspects of banking. Firefly Credit Union, they light the way with life illuminated. Edina Eye, Physicians and Surgeons, a division of Twin Cities Eye Consultants, has proudly served the Twin Cities for more than 55 years. Now in 7 convenient locations. Using the most advanced technology combined with human touch, Edina Eye offers comprehensive services but dedicated specialists committed to excellence with innovative procedures and expertise for the most advanced eye care.
Welcome to Access to Democracy. I'm Alan Miller, and we have a doubleheader today. Now, this is not a 7-inning doubleheader like they had in baseball this year. This is a very fortunate doubleheader with an old friend, Sheriff Tim Leslie of Dakota County, and a new friend, Dave Hutchinson of Hennepin County, and we'll do a little background on Dave in a minute. Better known as Hutch, a motorcycle rider of some repute. His father was a police officer, and he's got, I think, 15 years of experience in law enforcement, won an election and ousted a well-known sheriff 2 years ago in 2018. And I don't know if he's had any reservations about that since, but he sure stepped into a maelstrom here in Hennepin County. And welcome to Access to Democracy, Hutch.
Thank you, sir.
Tim, lift up your head so we can see you. There we go. Okay. Starting with Dave. This year has been really a shocker for everything, including law enforcement. But one of the things I want to get into is the difference between what you two have encountered because of, 1, COVID, and 2, the George Floyd murder, and how it has impacted the two of you. So Dave, why don't you start out? Because those are 2 unexpected events that really have had to create havoc with plans.
Absolutely. Thank you. COVID and George Floyd have made our jobs very difficult. With COVID, obviously we had to change how we did jail. We had to change how our employees work. Granted, in public safety, we can't work from home. But some people, some of our accountants, etc., have. But again, like I stepped in this job with a couple months without too much drama, but then COVID hit, and just right when we were all kind of getting sick of COVID, the George Floyd murder took place in Minneapolis, which of course is in Hennepin County. So it turned our world upside down. So what we've had to do is change how we police with COVID and with George Floyd's murder. And it's one of those things where makes me so proud to be sheriff of this organization and public safety is because everything that happens in society, we're the first to be blamed sometimes, but we're also the first to change how we do business. And Hennepin County and other counties like Dakota, we have to change with the times. We're going to change with the times no matter how long we've been here, and we've done a great job. And I've done a good job because of my mentors like Sheriff Leslie and Sheriff Fletcher and and some other sheriffs on a national level. So
A lot of coordination between counties. And now, Tim, there's such a difference between Dakota County and Hennepin County, where Minneapolis is located. Certainly, we are much more suburban. We're in the outer ring. How did either of those things, the COVID or the George Floyd, impact Dakota County?
Well, just like Hutch indicated, significantly, we were impacted from day one. On February 3rd, I had 282 people in the Dakota County Jail. On May 2nd, I had 71. That kind of change doesn't happen because Tim Leslie snaps his fingers. That was a coordinated effort between the judges, the prosecution, the Bar Association and the Defense Bar, community corrections, and the local police chiefs. That we don't want individuals with potential of COVID coming into the jail and infecting all the inmates. Some of the inmates need to be in jail. Let's be honest. I'm at 140 today. Many of those people need to be in jail because they're dangerous, or they have mental illness or crisis, or they're working through their sentence. So we've been able to do some things differently. Then George Floyd hit, and that was the second punch to the stomach. And we were just catching our breath from COVID. And that has required tremendous efforts on behalf of law enforcement. We had some significant rioting or looting and misbehavior in Dakota County. Nothing to the extent that Hutch felt in the city of Minneapolis. But you raise a good point, Alan. We don't have a big dog in this county. All the police departments, all the sheriff's office, we're all about the same. I have 84 licensed officers. I think then you got Burnsville, Eagan, Lakeville, all within their 70s, and then it gets smaller from there. We have to collaborate to get things done, to be effective. So, definitely challenged all of us in our abilities, but we collaborate well here in Dakota County.
Now, you, I know, have been somewhat of a mentor to Hutch, who came in certainly with experience and certainly with a good game plan, but nonetheless had not been a sheriff previously. So you want to comment on that, Hutch?
Yeah, I was a sergeant, and I managed a shift of about 30 people. And then when I got elected, I had to manage about 800 people. But I have good staff here. My chief deputy, Tracy Martin. I have a couple good majors. We won't mention names of those people. But they're great. Again, I'm part of the Major County Sheriffs of America, which is any sheriff serves over 500,000 people. The president of that organization is a good friend of mine. So it was a big jump, but I think I proved myself that I'm up for the challenge with great staff and great mentors. And it's been a tough year and a half, but also it's been the most rewarding, and it's made me work the hardest I've ever worked in my life, times about 50. So,
what about the jail situation? In Dakota County, they've had now the lowest amount of, I think since the 80s, the lowest amount of people in jail since the 80s because of COVID. Has it affected Hennepin similarly?
Absolutely. So I don't have the dates in front of me, but before COVID really hit, we had about 850 inmates. Now we sit somewhere between about 400, 500, which is increasing now. But we can manage it pretty good. We've had numerous cases that we've managed, but the old jail, where City Hall is, and the new jail, which was built in 2003, they're separated by a tunnel. So we're able to quarantine people very good. So this old setup actually helped us out during COVID. And now with the violent crime spiking, our numbers are going back up, and they should be going back up because we're good at managing COVID. Some people need to be in jail, like Sheriff Leslie said, and with this crime spike, we have plenty of room for them.
We could get into a whole different program on bail because there are acts going on around the country and people trying to take action on bail reform. The fact that you could both cut the number of people in your jail would indicate that, maybe we have too many people in jail rather than being out on their own recognizance. Do either of you want to comment on that?
Yeah, I'll take that one on. We put 34 people on electronic home monitoring in that process to reduce the number of people in our jail. And of the 34, none have reoffended. So to us, that's an opportunity that we took. And this, because of COVID, we had to do things like that. We had to do radical ideas to see what it would do, because the scenario of the infected jail would have been much worse, right? So I was in conversations with the Washington County Sheriff, Dan Starry, the Scott County Sheriff, Luke Hennon, and the Carver County Sheriff, Jason Camroot. I said, if one of our jails gets infected, we're going to have to shut it down and move to another jail. So then your inmates would come to me, or they would go to Starry. One would be an intake jail where the new or fresh arrests would come. So we were having those conversations because we were worried. So it now requires that we look at, we took advantage of a really good emergency, a crisis, right? So what did we learn? That maybe, like Alan suggested, maybe individuals don't need to stay in jail all weekend. Maybe we can use a book and release. We can use the ability of individuals to book, get booked in and then be free to leave within hours instead of the whole weekend. Gross miss DUIs are some of them. Once we have their car and they can't reoffend, I'm not sure they have to spend the weekend in jail. But those kind of conversations are open for discussion, and I'm willing to be at the table.
See, when I was practicing law, which is 100 years ago, along with Abraham Lincoln, well, almost with Abraham Lincoln. The trick used to be arrest them on Friday afternoon because we didn't have arraignment court over the weekend, and that'll teach them a lesson. We'll keep them in until Monday. And I think that's gone by the wayside pretty much also. And I think arraignments, how did you experience this, Hutch?
Yeah, I think what we're doing is we're releasing nonviolent people as soon as we can. Like Sheriff Leslie said, if you get arrested on a Friday night for DWI, you have to sit there all weekend. I would say no, but if you get arrested on a Friday for second-degree assault or domestic assault, you should sit there until you see a judge. So I think it's important for us to know that we have to evaluate public safety as well as keeping inmates in their keeping their rights restored to them. So it's a happy medium. We have to figure out the balance. Hennepin County is doing a good job even before COVID, but now we're starting to maybe see a little too much where the sign and release warrants on a second-degree assault. I don't agree with that. I don't think anybody that is wanted for a second-degree assault should be out. They should be waiting to see a judge. Maybe not the whole time, but we got to make sure that they're at least being monitored by ankle bracelets, etc.
Now, sheriffs in Minnesota have statewide jurisdiction, but sheriff's jurisdiction is very different. For instance, in the city of Eagan or in Minneapolis, there's the city police force. In other areas around the state that are smaller, the cities don't have their own police force. But in your case, either of you, what happened with the George Floyd situation? Were sheriffs called in to assist the police, which is something, that they're not normally called on to do? Whomever wants to answer that one.
Tim?
Well, Hutch was in the middle of it. I'll let him go.
So we were called in mutual aid, just like I served Minneapolis like I served Rogers or Wayzata. So if an agency, I had 36 police chiefs in Hennepin County I have to deal with, and there's about 43 cities, the rest be police. But if someone calls us and they need help, we're going to come to them. So, sheriffs are the chief law enforcement executive in the county we serve. But again, like Minneapolis is a very large agency, it's about than 800 cops. So we can't just go in and take something over with my 300 some licensed deputies and then another 300-400 detention deputies. So we were called in to help. It was a trying situation, but the nice thing about being the sheriff's office is that we don't need to be asked. If we need to go help, we will. But it was pretty amicable as soon as things got figured out with the city. So
what about Dakota County, Jim?
Yeah, so in terms of it's similar. The areas I patrol are the areas without the cities. The townships or the small cities who don't have police departments. That's the only area I patrol. I don't need to patrol Anoka, or excuse me, Apple Valley or Eagan, Lakeville, Burnsville, the 11 cities. I don't need to patrol there. They have police departments. But if they call for help, if they need our assistance, we're more than happy to come up and help them. And we do that regularly. In terms of our civil disobedience response, we have a collaborative approach. Everyone contributes people. And then we have a joint command system where one of the commanders, I think there's a South St. Paul commander, there's a Dakota County Sheriff's Office commander in Apple Valley have one, and they share the oversight and the leadership of the mobile field force response in the county. We were called out on Robert Street when Robert Street had a lot of looting. So we had several things that we responded to in the county during the aftermath of the George Floyd thing. But I just want to comment too. You mentioned Hutch and being a sergeant and then jumping to sheriff. He's done a wonderful job. He has the pulse of the community at his right on his doorstep. He understands what people need. He's done an outreach. He's savvy. He reached out to me early on and told me he was going to take one of my people. He had his eye on her. He did. He took her, and she's now a major for him. I'm still angry about it, but we get along just fine. I'm not really angry. I get it. And she wanted to. She wanted to run. She wanted to work in a big organization, and she's got the opportunity, and he's provided her that. He's done a wonderful job.
Yeah, I've gotten some really good feedback about Hennepin County also. And I think one of the things that has helped Hutch is the fact that you worked in some of the poorest neighborhoods in the past, which I think gave you a different perspective in terms of dealing with the people who lived in those communities. Is that a fair thing to say?
Absolutely. I grew up in Burnsville in Dakota County when my dad was a cop, but I spent my whole adult life in Minneapolis or the surrounding areas. So when I was a transit sergeant and transit cop, I came up and I worked in transit property, transit buses, trains, bus stops, transit centers. A lot of times people in the areas we police had to ride transit. They didn't necessarily want to. So we did a lot of outreach and sitting on a bus with people from North Minneapolis on a summer night teaches you A, how to talk to people, and B, how to relate. And I worked this Northside community engagement team for a few years, and that's really where I opened my eyes. Where the Northside gets a bad rap, but just like Eagan, about 95% of those people are good people. They just sometimes get bad raps.
Well, in my experience, the bulk of these bad raps is not from the people who live in the community. Yes, there are some who are troublemakers, but there seem to be people who thrive on this type of chaos and will come in to do nothing but disrupt and cause trouble and steal, as we had in both locations, both of your counties, we had that. But then when the arrests come, some of these people are not from within the city and or the county. Anybody want to comment on that?
Well, we had one circumstance in Dakota where two individuals broke a window at the Western Service Center. They deposited a Molotov cocktail into a judge's chambers. Neither of those two were from Dakota County. Both were from rural areas of Minnesota. and they came in to disrupt and damage property. Both were charged federally by the Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms Division of the U.S. Department of Justice. And once they found out they were going federal, they were going to sing a different tune, but it was a little too late. So it was kind of fun to watch that unfold. They're going to probably
They were part of the gang that couldn't shoot straight, I think. So didn't one of them leave his keys in the location that they terrorized?
Wait a second. Apple Valley made a great arrest there. Let's not. Yeah, you're right.
And then left his car 2 blocks away and couldn't get back into it because his keys were back in the location that they terrorized.
The arresting officer to help him find his keys. Yeah, it was pretty classic. Yeah.
Now you both have had to do some teaching initiatives with your deputies since this. What does that involve? Let's start with you.
As far as teaching our deputies, since the Floyd, is that what you're asking?
Yeah.
Well,
how has it changed things?
Yeah. So we're like, sheriff's office has a great training unit. A large agency like this, we have full-time trainers. They're going through, neck restraints, which we've never done, but and officers and deputies who train, jiu-jitsu and stuff have to get kind of untrained. So we've done a lot of stuff on justice, done new initiatives and use of force, where we're trying to get the use of force complaints down, which our agency, for as large as it is, only has a couple internal affairs in the last year by use of force. So to me, good training, which our staff does a great job, cuts down on the use of force complaints. So we've changed a little stuff, but we've done a good job for the last 20 years, and we're going to continue that. We're just adding more on racial justice issues and how can we be more inclusive, etc.
Do your deputies wear body cams in Hennepin?
Yeah, the majority of them do. We're still, unfortunately now with the budget, we might get axed on a few, but most of our deputies who are out on patrol and see the public on a daily basis have them. And our deputies in the jail don't, because there's so many cameras in the jail. And then our courts, we're working on how we can abide by the chief judge's orders and privacy stuff on that. So a majority of our front-facing deputies have them, and that was an initiative I pushed very hard last summer because it tells the whole story.
What about Dakota County?
Yeah, we've had body cameras now for the last 6 months. We've had in-car camera systems for many years. I think 1989, somewhere. Used to be VCRs in the trunk, that kind of technology. It's evolved into television quality now. It's unbelievable. But you brought up training issues, and as the police reforms continue to spill out from the legislature and others, many of the things we've already done here, we had done for many years. Duty to intervene has been in our policy manual for 8 years. Banned chokeholds many years ago. We have a use of force review team. Every time there's force used across any part of the office, a group of peers, instructors, and a captain oversees that committee and makes recommendations on policy changes, training, or discipline. I have the responsibility of discipline. They don't, but they could recommend it to me. We move towards more transparency. I have a Citizens Advisory Council that currently reviews all use of drones by the Sheriff's Office. We have 5 drones, so we do drone flights quite a bit, mostly for crime scene review or photography. However, I've asked them to expand their reviews to use of force as well. So that'll start probably in September, where we'll first educate them on our process for use of force and what we're looking for in our policy. And then they'll begin to review them. They will not make recommendations. They will just be an advisor to the sheriff. Sheriff, this one doesn't look right. Or Sheriff, do you mean by your policy this, because it's unclear to us what that means? Those kind of conversations, which I think are healthy.
Are community voices important in terms of reviewing these things, or should it be done by the professionals in terms of reform? Hutch, what's your opinion on that?
Absolutely, the community needs to be involved. I think we're paid for, we're elected by the people. People should have a place. But look, these people need to, um, have the ability to, we talk about transparency. They have to have the ability to kind of think outside the box of what they're used to. So I think the right community members, the people who want to see truth, people who don't have agendas of anti-police agendas or pro-police, it should be a non-biased person with some sort of education and whatever. I think it's important. The right people in the community should be on these community advisory board, which I have a community advisory board, which has somebody from every walk of life, all races, genders, sexual orientations, income levels. So it's important to get their information because that's the people.
Tim, your feelings on that?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, that's why I'm establishing it. I think that the community gets to have a voice. Like Hutch said, we tax the people to pay for law enforcement services. They get to decide. They've given us the authority to use force by the legislature. The powers vested in the legislature gives us the authority to use force. They pass laws that we enforce on behalf of the people. So the people have a role in determining the kind of force we use and whether it's reasonable or not. Obviously, the courts have a role too. They do the review, right? And did it follow the Constitution of this country? So there's a lot of cooks in the kitchen, and that's okay, because we police on behalf of the people, the way they want us to police them, with the laws they want us to enforce. So they are part of the conversation.
Now we're winding down on our time already, and there's so much more that I want to cover because I know that both of you were impacted by the COVID, certainly problems, and some of you had deputies giving the nose test or whatever they call that test. But I also wanted to mention that in reading up on Hutch, and Tim we know very well, but in reading up on Hutch, I see that you have done some things right off the bat, like free phone calls for people in the jail, which they didn't have before, like expediting DNA cases, and things like that. Now, where did you get your inspiration for those things? And I think that probably some of the inspiration comes from the other sheriff that you're sharing this interview with.
Well, the inspiration comes from my want and responsibility to serve the people. We have to make changes if the people want to make changes. So I want people to get COVID tests. I want them to be healthy. We do a good screening job. All this stuff, we got to expedite stuff to serve the people better, to get people who don't need to be in jail out of jail, to serve them properly. And again, Sheriff Leslie's been, again, mentor to me. He's well known throughout the country. He's one of the, probably at least second best sheriff in the state after, of course.
I want to thank both of you for coming on today. And I also want to thank your admins who were very helpful in setting this up because it hasn't been easy. We've had to adjourn a couple of scheduled appointments. And of course, we're not working in our studio. I don't know when we'll get back to our studio. But doing it by Zoom is at least a plus where we can have Sheriff Dave Hutchinson of Hennepin County and our old friend Tim Leslie of Dakota County, and really share some topics that are really important to the people under both your jurisdictions. So I really want to thank you again, and it's been a pleasure. And we've got to do this in the future sometime, hopefully back in the studio, but where we can talk about some of the things. And Tim, if we ever get back to normal, I still am waiting to get in the Citizens Academy.
Awesome. Great. We'd love to have you, Alan. You know that.
Thank you both so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Alan. Take care.